Workshop topics: refurbishing a Myford ML7R lathe. This is part 1, the cleaning begins. If you've been watching the 2 videos that I made when I bought this lathe, you will be aware that I had to dismantle it to make it lighter for moving, and now it's sat on my workbench. I've screwed the lathe to 2 substantial pieces of plywood just to stop it from tipping over. In this first part I'm going to start the big cleanup, because even though it looks okay, it really is extremely dirty. I won't insert a girlfriend joke there. Instead, I'll show you this bottle of methylated spirit. And I thought I would show the label because this clearly says ethanol, not methanol. So please don't bother writing in to tell me that I shouldn't be touching this stuff. Ethanol is not so bad. As a point of my own health and safety, I never wear gloves in the workshop. And I've never had too many accidents by doing this, and the reason for not wearing gloves is that I prefer to know where my fingers are at all times, all 7.5 of them. Methylated spirit is really useful for running steam engines fitted with spirit burners. It's also very good for this job. It's better than white spirit, and of course I can't use anything like cellulose thinners because that would damage the paintwork. What to do first is apply a generous amount of the methylated spirit to the part I'm going to clean. Then I give the methylated spirit a little bit of time to work in order to dissolve the oil and grime, after which I use something like a toothbrush to clean around the parts. This cleanup is a 2-stage process. What you're seeing at the moment is the first stage. I'm applying the methylated spirit in copious amounts and cleaning off the thickest of the grime. Even though this lathe looks to be in good condition and quite clean, it isn't. It's very dirty. Look around the letters cast into the headstock. So I'm not going to try and get all of the filth off this lathe in one pass. As I've just said, it's a 2-stage process. In the first step, I remove as much of the dirt as I can. Then in the second stage, I do a more detailed clean of all the parts. This entire job took 4.5 hours. What you're seeing here is highly edited. This view, for instance, shows the reversing mechanism immediately after the first clean. And now you see me on stage 2, making sure to get into all the corners and remove almost every part of the grime. The lever is a plunger that engages one of the pulleys and is used for locking the headstock in place. This part is simple but clever. It's held in place with a spring detent. After thoroughly cleaning the area, I replace the pin. The final part of the second cleaning sequence is to flood the area with quite a lot of methylated spirit. This washes away any grime that's still left, and it ends up on the bench. This part that I didn't really need to remove from the lathe, but it was at the time when I was trying to find different ways of getting the motor off, and during the part of the job when I was trying to remove the entire gear train along with the motor. That's why I removed this bit. This part is the lead screw gear drive cover, and it also forms the hinge for the outer door which you can open and shut. This part is obviously very oily, and it took quite a while to get it clean. I'm enjoying this job. It's a very low-stress type of work. And it's almost exactly the opposite of fitting 6 drain cocks to a Stuart triple expansion engine. I'm also quite enjoying the aroma of methylated spirit. I'd just like to say that I'm doing this job right next to a very large open door. Here's a shot of the part after the second cleaning, and it's looking good. At first I didn't know what this was. It's spring-loaded and it's at the top of the motor and drive assembly. When I dismantled the lathe, I hadn't even noticed it. If I had, I would have removed it and put it in a box. Thankfully I didn't lose it. As you can see, I've turned the lathe round to get to the back of it. And as it's screwed to the 2 pieces of plywood, it's quite easy to turn it round. You may have noticed that I'm doing all this work on top of a plastic portable table. But this is not just any plastic portable table. It's a very strong one. In my previous workshop I used this to hold all my metal stock, so it will easily support the weight of this stripped-down Myford lathe. Some of the parts are much more difficult to clean than the others are. This is the clutch unit, and below that is the belt tensioner. And both of these components took quite a while to clean by using an old toothbrush. The dirtiest and grimiest part of the lathe was here. It's at the bottom of the lathe bed, where the bed bolts onto the drip tray. This clip was after the first cleaning, Finally, I got it a bit cleaner than this, but I had to use some other methods. To get it cleaner, I used a piece of green Scotch-Brite. This part of the lathe in the gap in the bed looked like it had been brush painted at some time. I think I will sand this part before I repaint it. As you would expect, right below the chuck, there is a lot of oil residue on the back gear lever too. It's time now to clean the lathe bed at the back. I'm going to use some Scotch-Brite for this job. Starting on the part you've just seen me working on, I then continued and went on to clean the back of the bed. This oil residue and general grime has been there for a long time, but after a few applications of methylated spirit, followed by a few rubs with the Scotch-Brite, it started to look cleaner. This was after stage 1. The second cleaning got it a lot better than this. I could put a lot more pressure on the Scotch-Brite on the cast iron parts on the top of the saddle. You have to be very careful when you're cleaning parts like this because some of them are very sharp. A kind viewer sent me some 000 wire wool quite a long time ago now. I often use it for cleaning copper piping, but this time I tore off a much larger piece from the roll, dipped it in the methylated spirit, and it's doing a great job of cleaning up the reverse side of the bed. It's not quite as abrasive as the Scotch-Brite. Scotch-Brite is better for doing this sort of a job, where you really want to put a lot of pressure on and cut through the grime. A short while ago, another viewer sent me this useful brush. It's battery powered and it vibrates like an electric toothbrush. I've taken the batteries out though because it does actually spark a bit as you throw the switch, and I do not wish to do an impression of Joan of Arc. After thoroughly cleaning the lathe, I can now assess the repairs that are required. I will start the next episode from this point. That's it for now. Stay healthy, thanks for watching, and I hope you found it useful. Please take the time to visit my Mainsteam Models website and click on the section of the website that says Video Playlists. And by doing that, you can find other videos that you may like to watch. And by using the playlists, you can actually watch the videos back to back.